rebel house. I pray that the God of righteousness, wisdom, and truth will grant the leadership of this great nation. And each person that stands in a position of responsibility, that they will receive grace and guidance of your spirit to carry out their mandate. I pray, Almighty God, that as we conduct the duties of this house, that God, we will do it with love and great compassion for the greater good of this nation. I pray that the Almighty God will lead and direct the discussions and debates in today's session. And we pray, oh God, that our elected officials will conduct themselves in a manner that will be civil and for the greater good of the Virgin Islands. Almighty God, as we are entering into the hurricane season, we thank you and we ask for your divine protection, and we commit ourselves as a nation that we will trust in the Lord with all of our heart, and that we will not lean on our own understanding, but in all our ways we will acknowledge the true and living God. In Jesus' mighty name I pray, who taught us when to pray, to say, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen and amen. God bless this honorable house.
This house now convenes its sit-in. Good morning, everyone. My apologies for the late start. At this time, I will call upon the clock. Your mic isn't on. No, it was. Honorable members, is it your pleasure that the minutes of the meeting held on the 16th day of May 2024, which have been circulated to members, be confirmed? There being no dissenting voice, the minutes hereby stand confirmed as circulated. I call upon the clerk.
Item number 4, announcements by the speaker. Item number 5, statement by minister. Item number 6, presentation of papers.
Thank you. I call on the Premier Minister of Finance to lay his documents on the table.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And just before I present the papers, just to say, I want to concur, and I know that all members of the House will concur with the sentiments of Bishop Cousins in extending our thoughts and prayers to the people of Grenada, Carriacou, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and all others who have been impacted by Hurricane Beryl, Madam Speaker. And the BVI stands willing and ready to assist when called upon by our brothers and sisters in the region who certainly have been there for us in our times of troubles. Madam Speaker, I rise to lay on the table the following documents. Complaints Commission 13th Annual Report 2021, Territory of the Virgin Islands, year ended 31st December 2021. Complaints Commission 14th Annual Report 2021, Territory of the Virgin Islands, year ended 31st December 2022. Complaints Commission 13th Annual Report, Audited Accounts 2021, Territory of the Virgin Islands, year ended 31st December 2021. Complaints Commission 4th Annual Report, Audited Accounts 2022, Territory of the Virgin Islands, year ended 31st December 2022. Government of the Virgin Islands Institutional and Non-Institutional Grant Issuance Framework for the British Virgin Islands, May 2024. Office of the Deputy Governor Annual Report 2023, Department of Human Resources Annual Report 2023, Social Security Board Annual Report 2017, Social Security Board Annual Report 2018, Social Security Board Annual Report 2019, and Social Security Board Annual Report 2020. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I call upon the clerk.
Item number 7, notices of motions given orally.
I call on the Premier Minister of Finance to give notice.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to give notice that at a later stage in the proceedings, I will seek leave to move the motion standing in my name under item 8.1, Roman numeral 1 through Roman numeral 2 on the order of the day. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I call upon the clerk.
Item number 8, public business, 1, government business.
I call upon the Premier Minister of Finance to move a motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move that the bill entitled Beneficial Ownership Secure Search System Amendment Act 2023 be now read a second time, and I will now give the objects and reasons, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the bill before the House entitled the Beneficial Ownership Secure Search System Amendment Act 2023, the BOSS Amendment, seeks to address concerns raised by two agencies that utilize the Act, namely the Financial Investigation Agency and the International Tax Authority. Clause 1 of the bill sets out the short title, commencement and application. Clause 2 proposes to amend the definition of beneficial ownership secure search system. This proposed amendment removes the reference to the competent authority. Clause 3 proposes to amend Section 10.3 with specific focus on amendments to subsections 10.3.1, 10.3J, and 10.3K. These minor amendments clarify the reporting obligations of the entities by removing terms that are duplicated and to accurately reflect the information required for pure equity holding entities. Clause 4 proposes to amend Section 13 by including the governor's officer in the list of authorities that are allowed to make a request to the competent authority to search the database. Madam Speaker, I look forward to my colleagues' support on this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Speaker, I rise. Second motion.
Thank you. Honorable members, the floor is now open for debate. Any member wish to debate? If not, I'll call on the Premier to wrap up. All right, Premier, please wrap up. Oh, I recognize the member for the 8th District, Honorable Marlon Penn.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for the opportunity just to say a few words on this particular bill. Madam Speaker, you know there's been a long tradition in this House where we've always been in solidarity across the Houses when it comes to issues that impact financial services legislation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this particular bill, as I reviewed it and consulted with the competent authorities, is only a matter of making a change in terms of who's the competent authority. But this whole issue of beneficial ownership, Madam Speaker, goes much deeper. We've been having this conversation, and I know that there was a deadline that was set for last year, where the government had to make some decisions on making companies' beneficial ownership public in terms of public registers. As we have asked continuously in this House, in terms of the position on these issues, particularly the position across the House, because at the end of the day, as a House, we have to have a comprehensive conversation on this industry and the way forward in this industry. We've yet to have an informal meeting on this issue of beneficial ownership and its implications. Another deadline has subsequently passed. I'm hopeful that the Premier, when he wraps up, could also date to this House, whether in the wrap-up or in the committee stages, and where we are with this particular issue. I know that there's a transition happening between the current department that manages BOSS. The BOSS system is now transitioning to the FSC. And what that means for the industry and how that's going to work. We as legislators have a responsibility to understand the inner workings so that when we make decisions on legislation, we understand the implications that we're making for this industry. This industry should not be an industry where it's managing secrecy by a ministry or by a government. The entire House needs to have a proper conversation on the way forward, Premier, and I'm hopeful that we could have, on the long asked for by myself and other members on this side of the aisle, informal meeting on this industry. I know we just had the report, the mutual evaluation report that came out. Yet we still haven't had the discussion on how we're going to address these issues. A statement in the House is one thing, but understand the comprehensive plan and the comprehensive strategy for moving forward is vital for us to ensure that when the legislative changes come to this House, we're in a position to really elucidate and educate the public in a clear and meaningful way. So I support the changes that are being proposed. As I was advised, is only to change the competent authority to the governor's office, that's one of the authority, to deal with these issues of sanctions that we now have around the world. I know Russia is under some sanctions, different sanctions that have been put in place over the last couple of years, and they have to be able to manage those issues. So I support the amendment, but I therefore ask the Premier, additionally, that we need to have a more comprehensive conversation on this issue of beneficial ownership we are with the deadline that was set by the UK. What's our plan in terms of the transition that is happening between the tax authority and the commission, transferring the beneficial ownerships to the commission, who are now going to be the authority that's managing these beneficial ownerships, and where we are in general with public registers. It's long time for us to have that conversation as a house in terms of where we are with this issue of public registers and its far-reaching implications to our industry and by extension our economy. So with that few words, Madam Speaker, I support the amendment that is, but I also look forward for more comprehensive conversation with this House on this issue of financial services and the issue of beneficial ownership in general. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable. Is the Minister for Health and Social Development, Honorable Vincent Wheatley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I too want to just say a few words about this amendment that we have here. Madam Speaker, from time to time, we come to the House, ever since it was introduced, make amendments, and I think sometimes persons may be confused, those who don't tune in regularly, as to why am I hearing most BAS. It seems like every 5 minutes we hear, back in the House, something to do with BAS. But Madam Speaker, like I've often said in this House, though we be a small country, we are global players in financial services. And as the goalposts move, and as technology changes and people who want to do bad things get more sophisticated, we too have to adjust what we are doing. Madam Speaker, we saw in, I think it was May, that we launched the sanctions unit. And of course, that was a part of making us more robust. And that was in partnership with the UK and the BVI. And so it was only natural or fitting that the governor's office be added as a competent authority. I was a bit concerned when I heard. I didn't understand the rationale fully at first as to why the governor's office. So I went back to the major act, the original act, to look at how does one access to register. And under section 7, check the right area, 13.7, when it says a search conducted under subsection 6 shall not be executed without clarification that the request for the search is a proper and lawful and in compliance with the legislation governing the affairs of the authority making the request and any international agreements administered by it. Very important that we lay fears aside that it's not a malicious act that anybody's trying to pull anything to backdoor to get in on anything the BVI is doing. There are adequate safeguards put in place there. Madam Speaker, I want to refer just very briefly to a statement made in this Honorable House on 21st July 2020 concerning this BAS system. I'm going to quote 3 little paragraphs because it's important that people understand that we are doing what we can to secure our financial services. It says, BAS is fully compliant with international standards and is subject to meeting strict due diligence guidelines established by the FATF, including KYC and AML checks in line with global standards. 2, BAS has been lauded by global law enforcement authorities, such as the UK's National Crime Agency, the NCA. Madam Speaker, it also says several countries have visited the BVI to learn about and emulate the BAS system. So we have an internationally accredited system here that we're simply upgrading in line with what recently happened with the sanctions unit. And lastly, BAS has made pivotal contributions to the global fight against financial and economic crimes and was integral to disclosing information in a warranted the UK's first unexplained drug order obtained by the NCA in 2018. Now, this is a case that is often quoted worldwide, how the BVI was able to pin down the situation. And if I recall the story correct, there was a lady who showed up at Harrods in the UK one time. She spent a few $1 million, whatever it was. That's all, like a nobody. Then she showed up like a second time, she spent another $2 or $3 million. By the third time, she has spent around $15 million. And then, of course, all the red flags were already raised. Well, who is this person in Harvard spending all these millions? And it came right down to the bar system here in BVI to help the authorities pin down the person and could verify who they were. So the system works, Madam Speaker, but the goalposts and those trying to do harm are getting more and more sophisticated. So as these things happen, we have to come back to the House. And I guarantee, Madam Speaker, it's not the last time that we're going to be here talking about this bar system, because things do change and we have to adjust what we do in accordance. So, Madam Speaker, I support and welcome the change, and thank you very kindly.
Thank you, Honorable. I recognize the Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Ronnie Skelton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The only information that was being accumulated at the financial services sector, it becomes a problem when people are doing wrong things and there is no way to access some of this stuff except through some multiple system. So the VAR system was created, and it was created in line with the next initiative, which was to create a public open register. And as my colleague for the 8th mentioned, this open register thing, is it open or is it closed? Or is it accessed by only law enforcement? Because it makes everything that we do here in the Virgin Islands, and I am going to Madam Speaker, deal with all local companies. The companies that have basically taken the BVI from back in the Stone Age to where it is today. And it's being affected by a lot of these systems. And I think it's time, Madam Speaker, as a member for this, that there was an open discussion in this House with the people who know more, they know more details about some of this stuff than we do, to find a solution to stop people from losing, local companies from losing their homes, their properties, their equipment. It's just by the goodness of the government had, the cabinet had, that these people will get back their property and equipment and their businesses. Because, Madam Speaker, if the businesses, if you forget you're negligent, your fault, and registering your company, or renewing your company license after a certain period of time, it's a very short space of time now. Those companies are struck from the registry, and all the assets inside those companies go as property for the Crown. And to get them back, if you were someplace for a couple of years and you come back and you try to realize that legally those assets have left you and they rest with the Crown. And to get them back now, you got to depend on the mercies of the government. Something needs to be done, because to tell the people they don't have to form a company is not the right thing, Madam Speaker. Because then you're exposing the very people who you'll be sworn that we're coming here to protect, that they open themselves to personal liabilities. And that can't be the answer. There must be another answer to the local problems that are confronting people. And there are a lot of cases now, Madam Speaker. And the Premier is aware of quite a number of them, but a lot of cases where people during COVID and during whatever it was, they did not renew their licenses, and their company went defunct, and they have lost their property. They had to go to the courts, and it takes a lot of money to do this. Small companies, $20,000, $25,000 just to restore a company. And then you got to go to the government, if it's real property, to beg to get it back. Cabinet has to approve something. You know. So, Madam Speaker, while we it's time. I know we had to do some of this stuff in order to stay in the game, but now is the game worth playing like how we used to play? Is the game really hurting us, or it's benefiting us? I know we look at the big money. How much money now? 200 million? And we think, but, we need an open dialogue on this stuff, because in all the discussions around this country, there are people talking about generational wealth and all kind of these fancy words. But in these cases, you can lose it. So, Madam Speaker, I want us to be able to have an open discussion on how are we going to protect local business under the boss system, under whatever system, because why make last night we had a show. There are a lot of companies, little companies there that exist. Why make their information public for the world to see? And not, some of the stuff don't make any sense anymore. Because we are little, I understand that we are little fly and we could be swapped. And, but we are agile enough to get to escape the swap. And, Madam Speaker, we got to do something, and we got to do it quickly to assist local companies in securing themselves from the regulators. And they have no say in some of this matter, they're just following the rules. I can't blame them right now. But we need a solution to local businesses. So, but the amendment to this bill, which, like I say, is clause 10 and section 10 and 13 is being amended. There was not a real difficulty for me in supporting these recommendations. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable. I recognize the member for the 6th District, Honorable Myron Walwin.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise like the members before me support the bill that is before us. Madam Speaker, I rise to do so because I don't believe I have a choice. And I think that is really the reality of the Virgin Islands at this point in time when it comes to the financial services sector in many respects, having regards to the fact that we're getting or matching orders from external forces. And if we want to remain a thriving financial services jurisdiction, the changes that are being required of us by the international organizations must be complied with. And certainly, I support what Honorable Penn mentioned about the tradition of this House when it comes to financial services matters. But I think that wisdom, Honorable Penn, comes from the fact that we know in many respects we don't have a choice, as is the case right now. There's one small little matter on the bill. I see it's amending section 10, 3.1, but I think it should be 3A1, that is expanding and requiring a lot more information currently exists. Even asking now for persons' gross income of their corporate and legal entity and so on. That it's very intrusive. And I am wondering how that would affect our business going forward. But certainly in a broader prospect, I think we have to take a look at the financial services sector and look to see, while we continue to comply with all international obligations that we have, because of how important the financial services sector is to the economy of this country, we have to look at the wider economy to see what we can do better to be able to generate more income in the territory, particularly with the tourism industry. Madam Speaker, I've been asking questions about that tourism industry for quite a while, asking about a tourism plan, and where's the plan and the marketing plan and so on. Because even though, yes, we're dealing with the BOSS system, we're dealing certainly with a topic that goes to the heart and soul of the economy of the Virgin Islands. An economy that, I might add, Madam Speaker, is not as buoyant as it needs to be. It's one thing for government to be able to say we are collecting our monies, we are on budget in terms of our collections. It's another thing to say whether or not that money or the majority of that money is passing through the economy and benefiting businesses. And I think that is where we are having a grave, grave difficulty. Those of us who are in business, those of us who are paying attention, even persons obviously who are working, would recognize that things are not the way we're accustomed of them to be from a business perspective in the territory. And when you look out, we're now in July, the beginning of July. And from around June, May, June, you saw the cruise ships start to thin out. You had one coming a week. Now if you get one every 2 weeks, you say, thank God. You don't see the tourist arrival numbers like we're accustomed of seeing them pre-COVID. And Madam Speaker, I reflected just the other day, because the other day I took a little trip across to St. Thomas just to handle a little matter. And Madam Speaker, the amount of tourists that I saw in St. Thomas over this last weekend, I said to myself, what is going on with us in the BVI? And it reminded me, Madam Speaker, of a statement that was made during the COVID period by the then leader. We have to be so careful what we say, that the people will come back. I remember that statement very well, and when I heard it, I said to myself, the worst thing that we can do is to take our people, take our guests for granted. People have a choice with travel. They don't have to come to the BVI. They choose to come to the BVI. And if we are going to develop a posture where we think that we can impose all sorts of things on people and think that they have to come to Tortola or come to Virgin Gorda, I think we are sadly mistaken. And I really believe that some of our policies during COVID drove a lot of business to neighboring St. Thomas, and the people have not returned to the territory. I'm concerned about that. I'm also reminded, Madam Speaker, it's when I was in St. Thomas again, going to the States. This was during the COVID period. And we were down here, still got people under lockdown. Businesses still shut down. A taxi driver was taking me to the airport, and I saw the long lines at the airport going around the corner. And the taxi said to me, he knew me, he said, Walwyn, let me tell you something. Even if you have a dark kennel, and that dark kennel could lock, you're going to get it rent in St. Thomas. Meanwhile, we up here getting nothing but pure blows. Our businesses closed down. And so, even though we're talking about financial services, we are talking about the economy in the wider context. Something needs to happen to stimulate the economy of the Virgin Islands. The economy is flat-footed. The tourism sector is flat-footed. The cruise industry is flat-footed. When you hear numbers, Madam Speaker, read out about the amount of overnight visitors that we have, if you have an understanding of the tourism industry, you will understand what those numbers mean. Many of the overnight visitor numbers come from people who are on the boats, on the charter yachts. And if you follow their flow, they go to places that are on the coastal areas, because that's where the yacht takes them. So that's sort of a trickle down that you're looking for really on land. Through the local restaurants and the car rental agencies and all of those other things, you're not getting that. So even if you report your high numbers, that distribution, that dollar distribution that is needed to stimulate the economy is not happening. And there's nothing, that's why when I come in the house and I say to the Premier, when you look at Dominica, when you look at St. Kitts, when you look at Anguilla, when you look at Bermuda, when you look at even St. Vincent, with those properties that they're bringing on stream, the new hotels and so on that they're bringing on stream, there's a reason why I'm saying that. Because in order to give the local businesses that boost that they need, you have to shore up the land tourism, the land side of the operation, the small intimate villas, build more hotels so that at least when people come to stay, they can stay and utilize the car rental companies, they can use the restaurants, they can go to the supermarket, and that is how you stimulate the economy. I am really very, very concerned about the state of the economy, having regards to the fact, Madam Speaker, that we have very limited control. When we go into the committee stage of this bill, all we're going to be doing is dealing with aesthetics. We can't do anything to the substance of this bill. The head of FIA is here, he would stop us because he knows what the international obligations are. So yes, if it's one time we're going to rubber stamp a bill, it's going to be today because we don't have no choice. So it tells us that the major economic driver for the government is outside of the government's control. What are we going to do? We have to get on with building up the local economy. What happened to agriculture? Every day people calling me, telling me they can't get a little water to grow little plants. We're celebrating, we say we want the farmers to do this, we want the farmers to do that. We just passed a Crown Lands bill with all kind of thing in there. So we're going to give them the land for 5 years and all kind of thing. The people want to be able to make a contribution, but they can't get any water, simple water, to grow their crops and be a part of the economic activity of the country. We come with a big bill, say we're going to do marijuana. I ain't smell one plant yet. But the reality of the matter is you can't eat marijuana. Who would eat that? So nothing that we have said in relation to stimulating the economy, Madam Speaker, has happened. And that is where my concern really comes from. The economy needs some serious, serious injections. Look at the infrastructure of the country, Madam Speaker. Look at the infrastructure. Look at the infrastructure of the country. There was a pothole up Bellevue there. Madam Speaker, anyhow you are running from the police. You have a nice small frame. You could have lied down in that hole there and the police run straight past. She ain't no Madam Speaker in the hole there lying down. That's how big that hole was up Bellevue. Look at the state of the economy. This morning, Madam Speaker, my district is out of water. There is no water in District 6. When I call and make a phone call, I say, well, how come the people can't get to bed to go to work this morning? They tell me the reservoir dry. Why is the reservoir dry? Because BVIEC is asking them to take the water plant offline so that they can do load shedding. People can't get to bed. So the bill is not as simple, it's a financial services bill, but it goes to the heart of the economy, a troubled economy, I might add. Those same small businesses that Albert Skelton talking about, he has been talking about it for many years, so I have to credit him for that. But them small businesses are on life support. And we have said in this house before, we want to see some money put in the Small Business Bureau to give some loans and some grants to small businesses just to keep them alive. And absolutely nothing. $125,000 was put in the budget to help small businesses. But $3 million gone into travel. Every minute you look around, a minister for government gone on travel. And then they come off the ship, they come out the plane there, you're there waiting to see what they bring because you know you want some goodies. You went go travel, well, bring something for us now. When you come back, you see the two long hand them swinging, not a thing for Tatola people. But money gone in first class, and we can't get the economy of the country moving the way it's supposed to move. On a daily basis, Madam Speaker, people are having difficulties. You have a district office, you tell the people come to the district office, let me see how I can assist you. The assistant grant is gone. Difficult times. Difficult times. And so in the wider case, Madam Speaker, with this, we have to do some work to shore up the economy of the country. I am scared about that open registry. I am scared about it because it has the potential to decimate the economy of this country. It does. It does. And we cannot rely on that case from the European Union, which ruled against open registries as an invasion of privacy, simply because the United Kingdom and by extension the BVI is no longer part of the European Union. So they're not binded by the jurisprudence coming from there in relation to this matter. And then you have an election in the next couple of days in the UK. You got a little woman there named Margaret Hodge. I don't know what I told her. What BVI people do she? We must be thief, she white-faced cow. I don't understand why it is she is so persistent on what she's doing. If they get power now in the UK, what does that mean for us? These are some of the things that we have to consider, because certainly an open registry will affect our business. And even if you have a 10% drop in financial services, Do you understand what that does in terms of government's ability to provide services to its people? It's a major matter. It's a major matter. And so while we grapple with the issues of the COI and everything else, the government has got to get itself together. Get people who know nothing. Because it seems as if, Madam Speaker, in this country, when you get elected, all of a sudden you're brilliant. You are mumu the day before. Not an ounce of sense. And you get elected and all of a sudden you are brilliant on every topic, and people who know the issues, you don't have the courage to consult with them to be able to get advice as to how to move things along. Let us summon the advice. Summons the courage to get people who know how the economy of this country works so that we can get things moving again, because we're going to lose a lot if we don't do that. So, Madam Speaker, yes, I rise in support of the bill. I'll do whatever I can in the committee stage to make the bill a better bill, if possible. But certainly, as I started off by saying, we don't have much choice in passing this. We have to pass it because we have to meet our international obligations so that our name can be considered well in the international fair as it relates to financial services. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable. Any other member? I call on the Premier to wrap up.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the members for their support of this bill. And I'll just respond to a few matters, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it has been mentioned that we have a long tradition of and, I guess, multi-party support in the House for doing what is required to ensure that our financial services industry is properly regulated and keeps up with international standards. And Madam Speaker, I welcome that support given by all members of the House, including the opposition. Madam Speaker, I do have to say, I didn't jump up when the member for the 6th was speaking. But I do have to say that we're very liberal in terms of debating the bill before us. And we found ourselves talking about water and roads and tourism and other matters. It was a real stretch, I would say, Madam Speaker, and I think it's not something that should be encouraged. And I won't take this opportunity to respond to the areas addressed. I'll have to find some other time to do that because, of course, we have to deal with the bill. But a lot of it needs to be responded to, Madam Speaker, just because, of course, we haven't, I mean, our first quarter tourism numbers were the best in the history of the Virgin Islands. And, you know, everything is up. Cruise, overnight. In relation to how far the conversation can go, the standing orders clearly say that you stay within the periphery, as it were, of the issue. You're dealing with financial services, which touches the economy. But let's just say perhaps I am wrong, and the Premier has gotten up and condemned that I'm wrong. He can't then turn around and respond. Because to respond would also take him outside of the very same thing that he's accusing me of. So, which one? You can't be two persons at the same time. You can't have two views at the same time. Either you support one thing or you don't support it. But you can't say on the one hand, I should not have done it, and now you're responding. Make up your mind, Premier. This is not difficult stuff.
Well, just for clarity, I believe he raised an issue and he indicated he won't respond. So I take it the Premier will not go any further in terms of the response to the member. Am I correct, Premier, in understanding your position?
Madam Speaker, I'm confused.
I know you are.
Madam Speaker, I'm very confused. The member got up. I did not stop him not once. Madam Speaker, he was all around the bush and all over the place. I did not stop him once. I'm getting up to give my contribution. And just in a very cursory way stating that just for the benefits of the listeners, a lot of what is being said needs to be responded to. I cannot do it in this forum, but just for example, these are some areas for the benefit of the listeners, which I think is rather unfair, Madam Speaker, that I'm placed in a position. Because a lot of information goes out to the public. A lot of it obviously is from the perspective of, a particular perspective that I would not say is balanced and needs to be balanced. I can't do it here, but at least the listener should get the benefit of knowing, well, don't just receive this information as though it's fact. But really what I want to do, Madam Speaker, is focus on the bill and the wider implications of beneficial ownership, etc. Madam Speaker, that's really what I want to do. But again, Madam Speaker, I think it's something that as a House we have to pay attention to. And I would have much preferred, Madam Speaker, just unconditional, unequivocal support as we're used to on financial services matters, rather than conflating all types of other issues on the financial services issues. I don't think it's helpful. I think it's a reason why we don't want to politicize these type of matters, Madam Speaker. I think it's in good keeping for us to the partisan jabs, to keep it out of any debates as it relates to financial services. Madam Speaker, as it pertains to the beneficial ownership discussion and conversation, just for the benefit of the listeners, persons who perhaps need to be refreshed on the matter, just in response to what the Minister for the 8th District said. Of course, of having this broader conversation, he brought up the matter of open registers, which I guess is relevant to the bill before us. When we're speaking about open registers, we're speaking about economic substance, we're speaking about a number of areas. Just to refresh persons' mind, of course, in the United Kingdom, we had, we would say, a weak government from the standpoint of numbers. I believe it was a minority government under Theresa May, former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And a bill came to the House, and of course the amendment was proposed to that bill from a cross-party group involving Margaret Hadge and sort of Gentleman Mitchell and some others in the United Kingdom Parliament. And as a result of that amendment, we had a mandate to implement public registers, I believe, by 2020. And then, of course, the government of the United Kingdom, who did not support the amendment, but of course Parliament had mandated them, gave us a deadline until 2023, December, to have those registers implemented. Just for context, of course, the European Union gave a directive, the 5th anti-money laundering directive, which would have mandated in Europe to have uninhibited access to beneficial ownership information for companies. And as we know, there was a court case that took place as a result of that directive. and that directive was struck down as violating the human rights of individuals to whom it applied on the basis of privacy and on the basis of data protection. And on that basis, the BVI government, Crown dependencies, other overseas territories have been in dialogue with the United Kingdom on the implications of this court case, as well as the legal implications of our constitutions, which give certain protections to individuals based on privacy and the right to have their data protected. And therefore, as a result of those discussions, we have been able to, in conversation with United Kingdom government, agree that that deadline of 2023 is not implemented. I might say, Madam Speaker, some of the same first-class travel that is being referenced was used to go and speak directly to the United Kingdom government and avoid the catastrophe which would have been implementing those public registers in December 2023. Myself, the Deputy Premier, and others went and had those discussions directly with the United Kingdom government, and we have until 2025 to put some form of register in place. And this register, Madam Speaker, importantly, and I have to also congratulate the Deputy Premier to traveling to Asia. This is another one of that first-class travel which is being referred to discuss with our partners in, settle down now, discuss with our partners in Asia, where the largest part of our companies come from in Asia, to make sure we dialogue with those companies in Asia to ensure they know about what is taking place, to make sure that they understand what we are being asked to do and what we're negotiating with the United Kingdom government and others. And I was so pleased, Madam Speaker, to hear the very positive report coming out of that Asia trip in terms of our partners. Because we told them, and this is what we told the United Kingdom as well, is that uninhibited access to the registers is unacceptable. And therefore, we must consider legitimate interest tests for our register. A legitimate interest test. And as a member for the 8th stated, of course, we're making a transition from the bar system that we have now to an updated version system, which will, of course, house the register. And it is our desire to see that that register, access to that register will be limited based on those who have legitimate interests, including law enforcement agencies, and of course there's some other areas that we have to discuss and negotiate in terms of who will have access. But uninhibited access, that's a no. And I agree with the member for the 8th district. We should have an informal meeting to discuss these areas, not just on that, Madam Speaker, but also the response to the mutual evaluation report. Just last week, Madam Speaker, in the National Anti-Money Laundering Coordinating Council, we approved a communications plan for the response to the mutual evaluation report. And let me just say, Madam Speaker, that with the cooperation, leadership, and participation of the Attorney General's Chambers, the Ministry for Financial Services, Labor and Trade, of course, the Financial Services Commission, of course, the DPP's office, the Deputy Governor's office, the Financial Investigation Agency, the Governor's office, the police, all the other agencies. Forgive me if I miss any. Very good work is being done to respond to the mutual evaluation report. We've had excellent support from Claritas, which is a consultant working on us in recommendations, responding to the report that we got. Very soon we will be engaged with another agency called, a consultant called Kroll. And of course, very soon we'll be, I believe the ads went out and they have a process for interviewing, recruiting a national coordinator. So things are happening on the response to the mutual evaluation report. And again, these areas in conversation with the Attorney General, we can organize to have an informal meeting to brief members on the response to the mutual evaluation report. I certainly agree with that, and we will make that a reality. As it pertains to matters in the bill, of course, very practical matters as it pertains to meeting our reporting obligations, and of course our other obligations we have, whether to the OECD, whether to the Financial Action Task Force, all the international obligations that the International Tax Authority and the Financial Investigation Agency would have. Very practical, and we can certainly correspond with the witnesses, would be the director of the FIA and the director of the International Tax Authority, on the specific amendments here and the broader implications of them. But they seem very straightforward amendments, very practical, to allow these agencies to carry out their functions more efficiently, more effectively, to ensure that we continue to be able to respond to the ever-changing, ever-influx obligations we have in the international community, to safeguard the health of our economy by being able to defend against all forms of financial crime, and to ensure that our companies are being used for the proper purposes, including that the companies are not being used to shift profits and for the base erosion. So, Madam Speaker, I just say that I'm grateful for the work of all the different agencies which have to work together to ensure we safeguard the financial services sector, which, as was stated, provides somewhere around $200 million to government, somewhere around 60% of government's revenues, and is one of the two pillars which support our broader economy, our gross domestic product. And Madam Speaker, we fight so hard to protect the industry because just in all reality, being able to replace the economic benefits of the industry in the Virgin Islands would be extremely difficult. But of course, we continue to work to be able to diversify our economy, particularly to strengthen tourism, to be able to provide the United States currency that we use here, and the monies, the revenues from outside of the BVI to come into the BVI. And then, of course, we have to do a better job of making sure that money circulates in our economy, which a number of other things will assist with, Madam Speaker, that we can get into in due time. So, Madam Speaker, I thank the members of the House for their support on this bill, and I'm looking forward to very efficient discussions in the committee stage. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable. Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled Beneficial Ownership Secure Search System Amendment Act 2023 be now read a second time. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a second time.
This bill may be cited as the Beneficial Ownership Secure Search System Amendment Bill 2020.
Pursuant to Standing Order 55-1 of the House of Assembly of the Virgin Islands, the bill now stands committed to a committee of the whole House to consider it clause by clause. House is now in committee. I'll resume his sitting. I call upon the Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to report that the bill entitled Beneficial Ownership Secure Search System Amendment Act 2025 as amended. The title as amended. 24? She didn't say 25? She said 25. 24. Okay, my apologies. Madam Speaker, I move that the bill entitled Beneficial Ownership Secure Search System Amendment Bill 2024 has passed through committee with amendments. Madam Speaker, I move that the bill entitled Beneficial Ownership Secure Search System Amendment Bill 2024 be read a third time and pass as amended.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the bill entitled Beneficial Ownership Secure Search System Amendment Bill 2024 be now read a third time and passed as amended. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The motion is passed. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a third time.
This act may be cited as the Beneficial Ownership Secure Search System Amendment Act 2024.
The bill has been read a third time and passed with amendments. I call upon the Premier and Minister of Finance to move a motion. Vice.
Madam Speaker, I would like to from this matter. If I have an interest.
Duly noted, Honorable.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to move the following motion. Whereas Section 67(3)(e) of the Virgin Islands Constitution Order 2007 provides that subject to subsection 7, an elected member of the House of Assembly shall vacate his or her seat if the member becomes a party to a contract with the government of the Virgin Islands for or on account of the public service of any form in which the member is or becomes a partner or company of which the member is or becomes a director or manager becomes a party to a contract with the government of the Virgin Islands. Whereas Section 67(7) of the said order provides that if in the circumstances it appears just to do so, the House of Assembly may exempt an elected member from vacating his or her seat under subsection 3(e) if the member, before becoming a party to a contract, or before or as soon as practicable after becoming otherwise interested in a contract with the government of the Virgin Islands, by virtue of being a partner in a firm or director or manager in a company which has a contract with the government, discloses to the House of Assembly the nature of the contract and his or her interest in the firm or company involved in the contract. Whereas the Honorable Ronnie W. Skelton is an elected member of the House of Assembly. Whereas the Honorable Ronnie W. Skelton is a director and CEO of Skelton Properties Limited, whose registered agent office address is situated at CCP Financial Consultants Limited, second floor, Ellen L. Skelton Building, Fishers Lane, Rotown, Tortola, British Virgin Islands, which company provides real estate and related services. Whereas the government of the Virgin Islands entered into a contract with the company through Skelton Baylat Limited on the 6th day of August 2020 for the rental of a portion of warehouses, premises at Building 12, Skelton Baylat, Fish Bay, Tortola, British Virgin Islands for the sum of $36 $6,000 per month for a period of 2 years in the first instance, and the government of the Virgin Islands is now seeking an extension of that contract. Whereas by virtue of being a director and CEO of Skelton Property Limited, the honorable member has an interest in the contract with the company as aforesaid. Whereas the resolution discloses to the House of Assembly the offer made and the contract signed with the government of the Virgin Islands, and the interest of the honorable member in the offer and contract by virtue of being a director and CEO of the company and his company's desire to continue to provide these services. Whereas this resolution is a request by the honorable member to the House of Assembly to exempt the honorable member from vacating the House of Assembly, and whereas the Honorable Dr. Natalia D. Wheatley, the Premier and Minister of Finance, has by motion moved the House of Assembly to exempt the Honorable Ronnie W. Skelton from vacating his seat as an elected member of the House of Assembly. Now therefore be it resolved that the House of Assembly of the Virgin Islands exempts the Honorable Ronnie W. Skelton from vacating his seat as an elected member of the House of Assembly. Madam Speaker, I'll just say some brief words on this resolution. Madam Speaker, it is, for some reason my words are escaping me, but it is routine. It is a routine practice for us to have these resolutions in the House because, of course, we have members of the House of Assembly who are business persons. As we know, it's a small community, and of course it is very likely with the government, who is one of the biggest buyers of services in this country, to run into the situation or to encounter a situation where they will have to procure services which have been procured in a transparent manner, that they'll have to procure services from persons who have interest in the House of Assembly. The Constitution anticipates this, and the Constitution has allowed a process for this to take place. This is in keeping with the Constitution of the Virgin Islands. And therefore, of course, we are here to do our constitutional duty, to disclose this and to exempt the member from vacating his seat. I'm in complete support of us doing that. That is why I've brought this resolution here, and I'm looking forward to the support of the honorable members to exempt this member from vacating his seat. He's done everything that he was supposed to do. He's brought the requisite information. And of course, as was stated earlier, this is so the government can renew the contract which existed before Honorable Ronnie Skelton was returned to the House of Assembly. We know that we had an election in 2023. And of course, in 2020, when these services were procured, he was not a member. He became a member in 2023. And now it's time for the contracts to be renewed, and that's why we are coming at this particular time, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I look forward to the support of the members of the House on this resolution. Thank you very much.
Madam Speaker, I rise second resolution. And while I'm on my feet, I too will support Mr. Skelton being able to be exempted from having to leave the House. He has since recused himself, and that is the transparent thing. Madam Speaker, there's been much talk about members being involved in business in the split in many cases as to whether it should be allowed or not. The Premier said it is in the Constitution, it has been anticipated for to put in place that allows this to happen. I must say it has been followed, it is transparent, and we have to make sure we don't punish people because of their successes in life. He's a business person. He happened to run for politics and won. So we shouldn't punish him for that. So I fully support this motion, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, the floor is now open for debate. I recognize the member for the 2nd District, Honorable Melvin Turnbull.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also rise to
support this resolution before this honorable house to exempt the honorable member, Ronnie W. Skelton, from vacating his seat. Madam Speaker, I don't plan to speak too long because I think if persons are aware of the position of this member, one of the things that he would have stated even when he was elected and the time that he wasn't elected, that he doesn't necessarily prefer to do business with government. But that's from the business standpoint. The flip side of it, Madam Speaker, is that it came where the country and the government of the Virgin Islands needed the services that his business provided due to the space necessary. I think there is, if I'm not mistaken, Madam Speaker, I think it's Inland Revenue, Do It, and some Treasury, I think, that are operating in those spaces. And Madam Speaker, it is a situation where we have before us the need for the space to be occupied. And the company that Honorable Skelton is the CEO for had agreed to enter into contract with government. Based on my understanding, Madam Speaker, it was for a period only for 2 years. And now we see that the government is asking for extension for additional 2 years. And while I'm on this topic, Madam Speaker, I'm hoping that sometime within the next year, if not 2 or shorter, that we could get back into the reality of O'Neill Administrative Complex. Because, Madam Speaker, we are paying monies left, right, center, up, down, and between in rent that we have a building there unoccupied. It is taking much longer than I believe is necessary for us to occupy a space that belongs to us so that the government services and the bodies can operate and be able to provide adequate service to the people of Virgin Islands from one central location. So, Madam Speaker, I have no difficulty in supporting this. The honourable member, as one of the members would say when I first got elected, he would take off his shirt off his back. He even went as far as saying he would take off his pants if you need it. And now that he's back in this honourable house, Madam Speaker, I think we all understand that his heart is in the right place. He believes in doing the right things and following the rules, and we are here to support this resolution, Madam Speaker, to keep the member from vacating his seat because he is in fact doing the right thing. So, Madam Speaker, I support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members? I call on the Premier to wrap up.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the member for the second, for his vocal support, and other members for their support of this resolution. It has been mentioned, it's fairly routine for us to come here and to have these resolutions. And Madam Speaker, we are fulfilling our constitutional duty. Of course, these are matters, of course, that have come up in discussions with the Commission of Inquiry, etc. Just to say that any change here requires a constitutional change. And of course, we still have the constitutional report to be able to be debated. But just to say, Madam Speaker, that Denniston Fraser did a report in accordance with B4 of the Commission of Inquiry report. And Denniston Fraser basically said that there's nothing wrong with this provision. He says contracting with the government, having members contract with the government, there's no challenge there. We just have to basically strengthen our integrity framework, which is, we're taking the steps to do that. I believe the Constitutional Review Commission as well found that there was no challenge with members contracting with government. Just that, of course, the appropriate measures need to be taken. So, but we will, of course, we have been busy with COI, but we have to debate that constitutional review report, or review commission's report, and that is a matter that certainly will come up in the debate. Madam Speaker, I thank the members for their support.
Thank you. Honorable members, a motion has been moved and seconded. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The motion is passed. Honorable members, at this time we will recess, and the office will send out a new date in terms of our return. All right, so at this time, House is in recess.